For centuries, reading has been a cornerstone of sharing human progress and connecting with one another. However, in today's age, it feels people are reading less and are struggling to read. Now, if you don't believe me, look at this article. It shows how even college students are struggling to read full books. And these are elite students. And if you didn't know, in 2024, Oxford named brain rot the word of the year. Now, I fell into the same boat. I was not reading, and I would have never classified myself as a reader. So in 2025, at the beginning of the year, I challenged myself to read 25 books. Now, that may not sound like a lot to you, but it's definitely a lot for me. I think the most books I've read in a year was maybe 3. And so for this challenge, I know I need to be consistent and read every single day. I just need to become a reader. So let me tell you about this journey. Let me tell you some of the benefits of reading and how you can become a reader as well. I'll even throw in some suggestions at the end of some books that you can read. If I want to become a reader, I know I need to read. That's the conclusion of this entire video. Let me get more into the details. It all started with the first book I read. It's called The Slight Edge. So the whole premise of the book is you have to do something for a long period of time to see results. So if you want to do anything in life, you have to do that thing, and you have to do that thing for a long time. Basically, be consistent. So there's actually a famous Seinfeld story it mentions in the book. If you don't know who Seinfeld is, he's a famous comedic. And so after a comedy show, somebody came up to him and asked him, how can I be a better comic? Now, you might have this assumption that Seinfeld maybe gave him suggestions about how to write a good joke, but it really wasn't that. He said if you want to write better jokes, you have to write jokes every single day. So Seinfeld says you have to write jokes every single day. And how he did it is, after you write a joke, he had some way to visualize it. He had this calendar that he would mark with a red marker. After a few weeks, you would have this chain that you wouldn't want to break. And so I followed that same advice for reading. I knew I wanted to become a reader, so I challenged myself to read 10 pages every single day. And after a certain point, and after keeping a streak alive for so long, I didn't want to break it. So I remember thinking about the challenge of reading 10 pages every single day. And I put quotes around challenge because reading 10 pages a day is actually not that hard. Maybe that takes you 5 or 6 minutes. The challenging part isn't the 10 pages, but it's about showing up every single day. It's kind of following Seinfeld's advice. It's easy to do for a few days, but months and a year, that's something I haven't been able to crack, and that was the whole goal with this challenge. And so I want to talk about ways to track the progress. So you can track this progress by using something physical or digital. Maybe Notion if you want to do something digital, or like the Seinfeld's advice, use the physical calendar. And there's actually a study that shows that frequently monitoring your goals increases your chances of success greatly, which makes sense. If you have a goal and you track that goal, it makes sense that you're way more likely to achieve that goal. So for this challenge, I actually use GoodReads. And so I use GoodReads to track all the books I've read so far this year, all in one place. So it's great. Now I want to tell you quickly about the benefits of reading. Right? We know eating healthy, working out, and a good sleep schedule. We all know these things are good for you and have some pretty noticeable changes. If you work out, you might look stronger. If you eat healthy, you might lose some weight. If you have a good sleep schedule, you'll be well rested. But for reading, there's nothing really physical there. So for me, the biggest benefit has been my increase in focus and my ability just to learn new things and topics. Right? In today's age, I mentioned earlier, there's so much things that distract us in our day-to-day life, and it's kind of easy to shut off our brain and not learn new topics. Even if you watch things that are beneficial for you, I feel like even that's a slippery slope, and it can be a form of phantom progress. It kind of removes us from all those distractions, and it forces us to read the text in front of us and use our brain. So you can either do this to learn new topics or learn about entirely new worlds the author has created. And so I want to highlight the study that I mentioned earlier that shows the benefits of reading. I thought it was fascinating, and I want to jump into it. Benefits of the habit of reading. This study is actually pretty fascinating. It talks about the benefits of reading. And so I want to show you them directly. They go over the cognitive benefits, the health benefits, and also this shows really good metrics that I want to highlight. And so it highlighted that the cognitive benefits are definitely noticeable. Saw that students that read daily, the marginal grade increases were pretty high. English, science, math, and history have all these improvements. It's interesting to see that math has the highest increase here at 4.4%. And they actually call this out, said this suggests that reading habits not only help people become better readers, but also better thinkers and problem solvers. I feel by adopting reading, I've been able to understand material more and just learn easier. It also talked about the social benefits. Right? Reading increases the awareness of the broader human experience. This awareness helps to grow empathy and understanding of others. They said that leaders, CEOs read on average 40 books a year, Well, the average American reads 3. I was an average American on a good year before, but CEOs reading 48, that's pretty incredible to read that many books. They talk about some of the emotional and health benefits. It's just kind of easy to conclude, right? We all know this, but it's nice to see these metrics put in front of us to understand some of the real benefits that show that the real benefits that studies have done to prove that reading actually has these benefits. Like I said before, it's not as easy to see as maybe working out or those other health benefits, but it does make a difference. So I want to call this out. Let's go on to the next part. So for me, reading was fun, right? Because you are now introduced to this new form of media. And it kind of reminds me of if you have never watched Netflix or YouTube and you log on for the first time, there's so much good content for you to watch, or in this case, there's so much good content for you to read. Imagine you've never watched YouTube before or Netflix, and you log on, you get to watch Arcane for the first time, Severance, or Avatar: The Last Airbender, some of my personal favorites. But books have the same thing, right? There's so many good and amazing books that maybe you haven't been introduced to yet. So this is exciting, but also a little daunting, right? You're almost paralyzed by choice in this case. So I found myself leaning on GoodReads to see which book is interesting to me. And if you're not familiar with GoodReads, it's like a platform you can review books. It's kind of similar to Yelp or Rotten Tomatoes, and people are able to leave reviews. Briefly, I want to show you GoodReads and show you some of the things that it shows on GoodReads so you can use it a little bit better. If you go into the browse and you go to the list, it shows some of these featured lists, which could be a good place to start if you haven't read in a while. Maybe the good place to start is the best books of the decade. They have a bunch of lists, popular lists, etc. And I just want to show you briefly what it looks like to give yourself some idea. You can see that this is the book that one of my favorite books of all time, has a 4.5, 800,000 reviews, or 800,000 ratings, and 100,000 reviews. And you can see what people said about it. You can see what other also enjoyed. It's a great platform, especially if you're just getting into it. I use it all the time still, but I think this could be a good platform to see some of the books that you may want to read. So at first, I leaned on recommendations from like friends and family, other YouTubers, and like if you're interested in history, there's books like Sapiens, or if you're like finance, psychology, money is a good option. So I'll just pick up whatever sounds interesting to you and give it a shot. Quite literally judging a book by its cover, but I think it's a good way to get going and see what kind of the books you like. If you want my recommendations quickly, I'll give you my top 3 recommendations. I've read Rising, which is a fun sci-fi book that takes place on Mars. Project Hail Mary, which is another phenomenal sci-fi book. And if you don't know, sci-fi is one of my favorite genres. Or Shoe Dog, which is a great book. It's an autobiography, I believe, by the CEO and founder of Nike, which I thought was a good story. So these are just some books that you can get into. So now that I've told you how I became a reader, the consistency of reading 10 pages a day, now it's time to actually read. So join me. We're halfway through the year, and I'm at 16 books for the year, and I'm well on my way to crushing that 25 goal. Maintain the same pace, I'll be around 30 plus. I just want to share what I was able to do, and maybe that's helpful for you too. So now that you've decided to read, you know the benefits, you found some books you want to read and a good starting place. Now it's time to actually read the book. You watch this video, so join me, read 10 pages a day, and keep that streak alive. So let me know what you're reading, and if you like this content, be sure to subscribe, like, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.